Okay, this problem involves high-tech electronics and involves transfer pricing. High-tech electronics manufactures electronic products with two separate operating divisions, the Specialized Electronics Component Division and the MP3 Player Division. And we've got some condensed divisional income statements in front of us. Now, those statements involve no intracompany transfers, and it includes a breakdown of expenses into variable and fixed components. And we can see that on the screen, although it does appear in relatively small appearance in small fonts on the screen. Okay, so we see that the sales were 12,000 units. Now I'm reading to the left of the mouse here. Actually, why don't I move it over here? Specialized Electronics Components had 12,000 units at $126 per unit. Going down one, 18,000 units at $228 per unit were sold by the MP3 division player. Okay, so if we add those together, high-tech had a combined sales of, what is that, $5.6 million. It's actually $5,616,000. And we see that the variable costs are $86 per unit for specialized electronics, and it looks like we've got $162 per unit cost for the MP3 player, but there's an asterisk next to the 163. So let me read that. It says $126 of the $162 per case represents material costs, and the remaining $36 per case represent other variable conversion expenses incurred within the MP3 player division. All right, now let's read this part here. The Specialized Electronics Components Division is presently producing 12,000 units of output of their total capacity of 14,400. Materials used in the production of MP3 players are currently purchased from outside suppliers for $126. Okay, so that starts to make sense in light of the note we read. The Specialized Electronic Components Division is able to produce the materials used by the MP3 Player Division. Except for the possible transfer of materials between divisions, no changes are expected in sales and expenses. Okay, now let's take a look at Instruction 1, which reads, would the market price of $126 per unit be an appropriate transfer price for high-tech? And let's explain that. Okay, well, hopefully you understand enough before you've approached this, watching this demonstration, to know that the answer to this question is no. If we've got unused capacity in the supplying division, which in this case is the Specialized Electronics Component Division, then using a market price approach may not lead to the maximum profit of the total company. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. I'll slide down a little bit. If MP3 Player Division purchases 2,400 units from the Specialized Electronics Components Division rather than by purchasing them externally at a negotiated transfer price of $96 per unit, how much would the income from operations of each division and total company income from operations increase? Okay, now I've slid the view a little bit, so I've got some room here to work on number 2. And I've worked this ahead of time just to save some time in producing the demo. Well, we know that the new transfer price is, let me find the color here. The new transfer price is $96, right? And the old transfer price was $86. So in terms of the impact on the selling division, which is the Specialized Electronics Component Division, we've got a $10 increase per unit, and if 2,400 units were sold, then the net effect is take the 10 times the $2,400, and we wind up with increased profit or increased income for the SEC division of $24,000. Okay, now I've put a title on that so we know that was the Specialized Electronics Components division. Now let's take a look at the MP3 division. Okay, now the new transfer price from MP3, which is the receiving division, is $96. And the old transfer price was, let's slide up, I think it's the $126 that they talked about here. They also described it under number 1, okay, and described it in the text here. Okay, so if we enter that at 126, we can calculate the difference here. Only this time I want to make the subtraction go the other way. We have a savings, so I'll show that as a positive number. Okay, of $30. And if they purchase $2,400, if we just copy this all the way down, what we wind up with is a savings of the $30 per unit times the $2,400. Okay, now in this case I want to relabel this as increase per unit for SEC, but it's also a decrease per unit for the buying company, MP3. Okay, so we've got a $72,000 better improvement if we change the transfer pricing to the $96 amount. Now if we add those together, we come up with the total increase in profits of both divisions if we make this change in the transfer price. And I should probably format that the same way so that we can see what that total is. Okay? And it'd be the $96,000 there. So why don't I label this as total company change in profit. Okay, now we'll tackle number 3, which asks us to prepare condensed divisional income statements for high-tech electronics based on the data we're using in number 2 above. So let's calculate the sales. All right, first, for specialized electronics components, we have the external sales of $12,000, right, times $126 per unit. Okay, but now we also have 2,400 units, let me make that equal, times the $96 new transfer price. Okay, now MP3 also had external sales that were equal to $18,000 units times $228. And if I slide up, you'll see that information right up here. There's our 12 to the right of the mouse, the 12,000 unit, the 18,000 unit, and now we're factoring the information of number 2, which is 2,400 units being sold from SEC to the MP3 division. Okay, so that gets us our sales. We probably could combine all of this. Let me use the sum item. Okay, and then I'll also sum from above. Just draw a little subtotal here. We've got nothing here, but we can copy this, copy that, bring that down, and we've got $5,846,400 in sales. And we format that correctly. Make this a little bit bigger so you can see it, and we should be all set. Okay, then we need to compute the expenses. Okay, and the expenses consist of variable expenses, so we'll type in variable, and I'll indent that a little bit. And we know that there was, what, 14,400 units. How do we want to take a look at this? For special ED, okay, I slid it up. Now, they were selling 12,000 units externally for $86, and then we added another 2,400 units so that were sold to the MP3 division. So if we add the 2,400 and 12,000 units together, we come up with 14,400 units, right? So we have variable costs equal to 14,400 units, right? That's the combined number of units times the $86 costs. Okay, so that's 1,238,400,000. Okay, now to MP3, their variable costs are going to include the 15,600, let me do this in parentheses, the 15,600 units it sells externally times $162, right? Plus the 2,400 units it purchased from the SEC division at a cost of $132. Now, the $132 was equal to the $96 transfer rate plus that $36 operating expenses. So maybe we should do it this way, times 96 plus 32. Okay, so that's how we come up with the let me get that, 96 plus 36. Get that right, Ed. Comes up with the $132 cost. And if we add that together, okay, and I want to add one more paren in here, parentheses there and parentheses there. I know you can see how I'm doing that. And that'll get me a combined of 2,844,000. Okay. What do we have left? We have the fixed cost. So let's jot that down here. And the fixed expenses were 186,000. This is given to us in the problem, and 432,000. Now slide up and show that. There's our 186 and 432 right there. Okay, so now we can do another subtotal here. I think what I'm going to do is just format this area right here, and then I can copy this. We'll get another subtotal. I can then sum, and I think if I press this, the auto sum will know what to do. Let's see. Yep, it did. And I come up with 4,700,400. So there's my total expense line. And I'll indent that. And the only thing we have left to compute is income from operations. And of course, we just need to subtract the expenses from the revenues, the expenses from the sales, right? So we get 318,828 and a combined income of 1,146,000. Format that a little nice. I think I can add a double underline here, and that takes care of part 3. Okay, next we take a look at question 4, which says, if a transfer price of $120 per unit is negotiated, how much would the income from operations of each division and the total company income from operations increase? Now, in the interest of saving time, I'm not going to work this one, but I will show you the solution to this one, and I'll read that for you. Keep in mind now how this works. It's very similar to how we tackled parts 1 and 2 earlier. The Specialized Electronics Component Division income from operations would wind up increasing by $81,600, and we would calculate that by taking the new transfer price of $120 and then subtracting from it the $86 variable expenses multiplied by the $2,400 unit. So that's the same way we worked it before. It's the same approach. By selling to the MP3 player division, the Specialized Electronics Components winds up earning $34 per unit on the 2,400 units sold. Now, the MP3 player division's income also increases because it's getting a good deal as well. It increases by $14,400, which is the difference between the new market price of $126 that it would have had to pay versus the transfer price of $120 multiplied by 2,400 units. So by purchasing from the Specialized Electronics Component Division, it saves $6 per unit, and therefore its results improve as well. Now, the company as a whole, its total income from operations would increase by the same amount as what we did in Part 2, $96,000. And that's the difference between the market price of $126 and which the MP3 player division has been paying to outside suppliers, and now the new price of $86 multiplied by the 2,400 units. So the increase in total company income from operations is also equal to the sum of the increases of the two divisions that are impacted by the change in transfer pricing. Okay, let's look at number 5. 5A says, what is the range of possible negotiated transfer prices that would be acceptable? And part 5B says, assume the managers of the two divisions cannot agree on a transfer price. What price would you suggest? And again, in the interest of saving time, we'll just read those solutions. Any transfer price greater than the $86 variable expense cost but less than the market price of $126 falls in an acceptable range. And if the division managers can't agree on the transfer price, 106 seems to be the best compromise, somewhere in the middle. That way each division's income from operations would increase by $48,000. Okay, thanks everyone.